This video is about practitioners research or action research. First of all, I would like to show you the content which I will be covering in this video. The content includes concept of action research, origins of action research, models of action research, tools in action research, trustworthiness and rigor in action research, generations of action research, and forms of action research. So here is the list of some readings on action research. Here are some websites for action research. If you go on the first website, you will find many tutorials on action research. This is a very good website and very good, in fact, a complete course on action research. And different aspects of action research have been explained in this course. So let's see, what is action research? Action research is a form of research in which practitioners reflect systematically on their practice, implementing informed action to bring about improvement in practice and add to a body of knowledge. Action, that is change; research, that is understanding. Action research is different from other sort of researches. The purpose of action research is improving the practice. That's why it is known as practitioners research. In this is done by practitioners. Other research is, for example, qualitative researches or quantitative researches. They are mostly done by qualified researchers. Action research is done by the practitioners. Researchers mostly tell what kind of teaching strategies should be used by the teachers in schools. Action research is that sort of research where the practitioners carry out an inquiry and they come up with an answer what kind of strategies should be they be using, and what kind of problems do they face, and they come up with certain solutions. So the purpose of action research is not to generate only theory. The purpose of action research is to solve the problems. The practitioners keep doing research till the point the problem is solved. So it is systematic inquiry like other researches, and it is a practice. So there are two key words: action and research. Action means some sort of activity that is done by the researcher to that activity is change oriented. You do something differently, so to address a problem. And research, that it is understanding. You try to develop understanding of some intervention or some change which you implement. So it is a systematic review, it is a systematic study of an intervention, of a practice by the practitioners. Besser describes educational action research as follows. Educational action research is an inquiry which is carried out in order to understand, to evaluate, and then to change in order to improve some educational practice. It is done by the practitioners, not by the researchers. Researchers are outsiders. Practitioners are insiders. So the classroom problems which are faced by the teacher, they are addressed by the teacher. So that is the spirit of action research. So the first thing is that this inquiry will help the researcher to understand the problem, the phenomenon, then to evaluate that, to see if that is a real problem or what can be done to bring some change in that, and then action is taken, that is to change in order to improve some educational practice. So here I have tried to indicate uh, uh, the process of action research, that action involves initiating, doing, intervening, improving practice, interested in the research topic. So these are the action component of an action research. So research components are inquiring, review of literature. You cannot do action research without reviewing prior literature. Standing back, reflecting like other researchers, qualitative researchers, action researchers also stand back and reflect. They are careful, modest educational claims. They are disciplined. They collect evidence to support their claims, and they are systematic, not ad hoc or time scale method to what you are doing. So all these things make action research a research. All these points make action research an action. So action research involves an action. It also involves research. So you might be thinking then how action research is different from experimental research. Experimental research, of course, our experimental research also involve some kind of initiation and doing or implementing an action, and uh, it is a research as well. The basic difference between action research and experimental research is that experimental research is done by the researchers. Experimental research is doesn't aim at improving the practice. आपने experimental research की, आपने कुछ intervention आपने की, and as a result of research you find out that strategy A worked and strategy B didn't work, or maybe you come up with a conclusion that both strategies didn't work. So that is the end of the research. But action research, if you're doing action research, you find out that strategy A didn't work. Okay, no problem. You will come up with another strategy. You will apply strategy B. You find out that strategy B didn't work either. You come up with a strategy C. हो सकता है कि आपको strategy C को आपने apply किया and you come up with the conclusion that strategy C didn't work to solve your problem or improve your own practice. You will come up with a strategy D. ये तमाम की तमाम strategies होंगी. They will be rooted in review of literature. You will read literature and you will find out which strategies have been suggested by the researchers, which can solve certain problems or which can enhance students' learning. So you will apply, you will keep applying different strategies to the point that your performance is improved. So the purpose of action research is to improve the performance. Purpose of COSI experimental research is not to improve people's performance or practitioners' performance. The purpose of those studies are to reach on some conclusions, to prove or disprove some hypotheses or theories. Action research is different from those kinds of researches, as the key focus is on improvement. Let's see what are the origins of action research. Kurt Lewin is reputed to have been the first to use the term action research. You can see here that he proposed a cycle that it starts, not starts, there is no starting point in fact in a cycle. So let's see, for sake of simplicity, we can say that at this stage our cycle is started. The researcher plans something, plans an action, act that. While acting that, the researcher observes and collects data. On that data, the researcher reflects. That reflection guides the next planning stage. Then a new action is maybe implemented. The researcher again observes, collects data, reflect on the data. Third cycle of action research may start with third planning, then acting. The cycle goes on. So this is known as the cycle of action research, because the purpose of action research is improvement. So the researcher will keep moving in the cycle till the point there is some sort of improvement. Stephen Covey first spoke of action research as being a means for improving practice in school. He urged teachers to research their own practice in order to improve it. So Corey said this in 1953. He was the he was one of the earlier advocates of action research in the field of education. So uh, it is practitioners research. Practitioners know exactly what are their problems in the class. So it is always better that researchers, the teachers or the practitioners take on the role of researchers as well, so that they are able to generate some theory for themselves. So why to do action research? Teachers may ask some questions. Do all my students understand what I teach them? Do all students perform according to their potential in my class? Are my teaching methods perfect? Are my teaching methods relevant but can be improved? Do I want to try something new with my class? So teachers may ask questions like this, and these questions may lead the teachers to do action research. For example, if if I ask a question, do all students perform according to their potential in my class? And this is a reflective question. I need to reflect on students' work. I may check their notebooks. I may reflect on their responses in the class to answer this question. The maybe the answer of this question is that students do not perform according to their potential in my class, or I feel that students do not perform according to their potential in my class, or I find that my teaching methods are okay, are relevant, but they need to be improved. So if I ask such kind of questions, I may end up planning an action research project. So action research starts with reflection. We all believe that there is always a room for improvement. How can we improve? Okay, by reflecting on our current practice. Yes, we can improve by reflecting on our current practice. Once we reflect, we identify the weaknesses in our practice, and then we may address that weakness by talking to peers and seeking their advice. However, the point is, do peers have enough time to help you improve? That is another important consideration. Peers are very helpful. Their advice really helps in improving our practice. But the point is that they are busy people. They do not have enough time to help us improve in our practice. Another way of improving could be talking to an expert in the area and seeking advice. Question is, can experts be approached easily? Probably not. Searching on internet and looking into the books to find ways of improving the practice. Okay, that can be done. However, we need to know that action research helps in improving our practice much more as compared to any other means like reflection, peers, experts, etc. So action research is a useful strategy to improve our practice. Action research is useful in improving our own practices, as well as it is very useful as it adds to the existing body of literature, even maybe to a localized level, but it adds to the body of knowledge. So let's see what are different models of action research. So Camus model, he proposed this model in 1986. You can see that this model is also cyclic. You start with planning, then you take an action, you observe and reflect on the action. This reflection leads to the revised plan. You apply the revised plan, take an action, you observe your action, reflect on that, and that reflection leads to another revised plan. So this the cycles go on, cycle 1, cycle 2, cycle 3, cycle 4. So you keep planning and acting till the point you realize, you feel that your practice has been improved or the problem has been resolved. There is another model that was presented by Cohen and Manion in 1994. They said that the first stage of action research is identification of the area or topic, research topic. Second stage, preliminary discussion, discussion with the relevant people. So if you are a teacher, you will have a discussion with other teachers. If you are working as a nurse, you will have discussion with other health workers about the problem. So discussion is important in doing action research. Third stage, review of related literature. Fourth stage, modification of identified area or topic. Once you read literature, you are in a position to refine or modify your area or topic. Fifth stage, selection of research procedures. Sixth stage, selection of evaluation procedures. Implementation of the project. Seventh stage. Eighth stage, interpretation of data and conclusions. The main difference between Camus model and Cohen and Manion's model is that this model is about action, that how you plan an action and how you observe and reflect and then replan. This model is about doing research, how you start doing action research. So this stage, you can say that implementation of the project, this stage is the stage where this model of Camus starts. Here, that when you are implementing action, so you implement the project and interpretation of data and conclusions. This stage is similar, the eighth stage is similar to observation stage. This stage, observation and reflection stage. So once you collect data, you interpret data and you reach to certain conclusions, this is the, you can say this is the end of cycle 1. In the light of the data interpretations and conclusions drawn, you start the next cycle. Important thing is that these stages are not repeated in the next cycles. You will plan an action and then you will implement the project, you will reflect on the data, and then again you will start the next cycle. So Cohen and Manion's model of action research is more focused on the process of action research, while Camus model is more focused on action and reflection component of the action research. So let's see another model, McNiff's model of action research, and it was adapted from Whitehead. Both of them are established action research theories. So they proposed certain questions in the form of the action research model. What issue am I interested in researching? Why do I want to research this issue? What kind of evidence can I gather to show why I am interested in this issue? Maybe the evidence is that my students are not performing good. When I check their notebooks, I find that they are making a lot of mistakes. So that is the evidence, and which shows that I need to do something differently so that my students learn mathematics in a better way or science in a better way. What can I do? What will I do? What can I do? Okay, I need to discuss this with my colleagues. Maybe they will help me identifying some strategies to address that. What will I do? Okay, I can, if after discussing things with my colleagues, I find that I have already tried out all those strategies in my class, there is nothing new, then I would try to read literature to see what kind of strategies have been proposed in the literature. I will be using those. I will be using those strategies. What kind of evidence can I gather to show that I am having an influence? So you will decide data collection procedures. How can I explain that influence? How can I ensure that any judgments I might make are reasonably fair and accurate? How will I change my practice in the light of my evaluation? So these questions are also more focused on the action and reflection component of action research. So do remember that action research involves four important aspects. That is your planning. Planning should be certainly rooted in some reflection. You identify a problem in the light of reflection, and then you plan, you identify some strategy to act that is ideally rooted into some literature, and then you implement that, you collect data and you reflect on that data again. So McNiff and Whitehead model is also quite similar to Canvas model, though there are four major stages identified here. Each stage has been elaborated in the form of questions. So there is another model which was proposed by McNiff. Action research should offer the capacity to deal with the number of problems at the same time by allowing the spirals to develop spin-off spirals. So McNiff said that in the first cycle, okay, this is, if we take this as the first cycle, the next cycle should be broader than the first. Third cycle should be broader than the first two cycles, because it should be a spiral to develop spin-off spirals. Because when you are at the stage one, at this stage you don't know much, but once you find out that strategy A didn't work, you have evidence. Now your knowledge is much deeper than you had at this stage. So this cycle is certainly broader, because this cycle has more experience, this cycle has more insight. So they suggest that these once you do research, you move on from one cycle to the second cycle to the third cycle, your insights grow and uh, your understanding develops. So this is another model of action research. So let's see what are different data gathering techniques. These are common data gathering techniques used by action researchers in the field of education. They include keeping a research diary, teacher, researcher, and students. So research diary, in this research diary, the practitioner or the teacher researcher makes notes of what students do or what she or he does. Questionnaires may be used with students with teenage students. Questionnaires are not appropriate tools to be used with very young children, because they might find it difficult to respond to questionnaires, to understand the items of questionnaires. Interviewing is very good with the young children and with the people of any age. Observation is very important tool in action research. So researchers collect data, action researchers collect data through participant observation. Researchers, action researchers may make videos of their classrooms with permission of the students and students' parents. They can record audios, again with the permission of the school, parents, and the students, and then they may use some sort of online technology to collect data, maybe Facebook or some other way of collecting data. So reflective diary, or it is also known as journal or action research journal, it is the most important tool for an action researcher. So Besset states the essential tool is an inquiry journal, that is a notebook. This is where the practitioner keeps notes stage by stage as the research unfolds. It is a working document which provides a source for subsequent reflective thinking and report writing. So if an action researcher doesn't keep a diary, it means that the data is faulty. So it is so important. So trustworthiness and rigor in action research, they are important considerations. Trustworthiness, what is trustworthiness? In quantitative research, the word validity is most commonly employed instead of trustworthiness, but in qualitative research, the word trustworthiness is used. So, does the research do the things it claims to do? Can the reader believe the results? So, does your research or study something which you intended to do? So, can the reader believe the results? That is about trustworthiness of your study. Researchers hold validity meetings. Action researchers actually hold validity meetings to test out claims with the validation group who will challenge claims and help identify any weaknesses. So, action researchers check out during these validity meetings, the action researchers check out the data and the way it is analyzed and presented. These meetings help the researchers to enhance claims to knowledge and make sure that data supports them. So validity meetings are very, very important. Action researchers, once they have found something and they have written something, they need to discuss those claims with other people, with their colleagues, with other action researchers. They will help them. They will validate their data. They will increase the trustworthiness of their findings. They will let them know if there are any weaknesses or if there are some flaws in their data collection, so that action researchers can go back and collect more data to gain new insights. So these are the purposes of validity meetings. So rigor in action research, rigor, the methodology which best allows a researcher to conduct systematic inquiry in order to present a warranted assertion. That is the rigor of an inquiry. So ensuring rigor in action research is equally important. Selection and use of multiple research methods, your data, as a, it is a very important consideration. Action researchers collect data from limited number of respondents. Their sample is much smaller as compared to quantitative researchers sample. So there is always a chance of losing some important data. So action researchers can ensure rigor of their research by selecting and using multiple research methods. A cyclical nature of action research again adds to the rigor of action research, because you can tell the readers of your research paper that you did research in 3 or 4 cycles and you collected data through multiple ways, and the focus on participation, that the researcher is a participant. So if you focus on that, you can increase rigor of your research. When we say that generations of action research, it means that actually action research has evolved over the years. It originated in 1940s, but since then it has evolved tremendously and it has resulted in different forms. So let's see what are different generations of action research. Stephen Covey initiated action research in education in the US soon after Lewin's work was published. However, efforts to reinterpret justify action research in terms of prevailing positivist ideology led to a temporary decline. A second generation of action research with practical focus, building on a British tradition of action research in organizational development, is seen in 1970s and 80s. So action research is not specific to the field of education only. Other fields of there are many other fields which employ action research, whether they are organizational development or in even health. Action research is very commonly employed. So that this is the second generation. Advocates and efforts for the realization of critical character of action research is called the third generation of action research. So Camus is one of the people who is a proponent of critical action research. A fourth generation of action research emerged in the connection between critical emancipatory action research and participatory action research that had developed in the context of social movements in the developing world. So the two key themes were the development of the theoretical arguments for more actionist approach to action research and the need for participatory action researchers to make links with broad social movement. So there are four generations, and the fourth generation is the critical participatory action research or critical emancipatory action research. In this, in the fourth generation of action research, the focus is on two key themes. They are the development of theoretical arguments for more actionist approach, that something needs to be done with an action orientation, and the need for participatory action research, that people should work collectively so that all the people who are involved in one action research project, they are empowered. And the important thing is the critical dimension means that there are links with the social movements. We will see this aspect in detail when I talk about the critical participatory action research. So there are main four generations of action research. The initial generation focused on improvement of practitioners' practice, or then practical action research on that was more focused on solving the practical problems collectively. The third generation focused more on participatory action research, and the fourth generation on critical participatory action research. So there are three main forms or kinds of action research: technical action research, practical action research, and critical action research. So let's have a look on these three kinds one by one. First of all, technical action research. Technical action research is guided by an interest in improving control over outcomes. The task of the participant researcher is to improve the means to achieve the outcomes. For example, outcomes, the researcher wants to improve students' achievement in mathematics class. That is the outcome. So to achieve that outcome, the participant researcher would work on the means her practice or her teaching strategies. So this is technical action research, where the purpose is to achieve certain outcomes through some means. So action researcher, in this research kind of action research, the researcher plans everything. So there is asymmetric relationship or one-way relationship between the participant researcher and the others involved in or affected by the research. Means asymmetric relationship, the researcher or the practitioner or the teacher takes the responsibility of making all the decisions, right from the planning to the reflection. So in technical action research, there is a symmetric relationship. The purpose of technical action research is to improve the practice or to improve the means. So these different forms, technical action research, practical action research, and critical action research, so they have been identified by Camus and his colleagues. Practical action research guided by an interest in educating and enlightening practitioners so they can act more carefully. The focus is on long-term improvement. The basic assumption behind practical action research is that if we want to bring long-term improvement in an organization, then people need to be enlightened. So practical action research involves other people as well. So there is symmetric relationship between the researcher and the others who are involved in certain practice. The practitioner in such a case might still be the one who decides what is to be explored and what changes are to be made. But in practical action research, she or he remains open to the views and responses of others and the consequences that these others experience as a result of the practice. So it is about the purpose of practical action research is long-term improvement, and others' role is acknowledged in that, and the researcher is open to the views and responses of the other. So there is a symmetrical reciprocal relationship between the practitioner and others, but others may be students, others may be colleagues, and if a school head is doing this kind of action research, then others could be teachers and support staff. The next one is critical action research. Critical action research guided by an interest in emancipating people and groups from irrationality, unsustainability, and injustice. So the purpose of critical action research is not technical. It is not improvement of one's performance. Rather, the, the interest is emancipation of the people and groups from irrationality, unsustainability, and injustice. Critical action research is mostly done with the people who are marginalized, who are disadvantaged, or who face some sort of discrimination. So, critical action research is done with marginalized group. So it is done under the tradition of transformative paradigm. So the focus is to emancipate people from irrationality and injustice. In critical participatory action research, the reciprocity between practitioner researchers and others in a setting is amplified still further. It is much more than that is expected in practical action research. Responsibility for the research is taken collectively by people who act and research together in the first person. In this research, in critical action research, the, we and us, these are the words which are used by the researchers. It is unlike practical action research, where the researcher involves participants, involves others, but the others remain you. In critical action research, there is no you. There is, the word is we or us. Decisions about what to explore and what to change are taken collectively. It is a collective venture by the researcher and the participants. So critical action research is the research that aims at emancipating people. When participants are involved in this, it becomes critical participatory action research. Scope of critical action research. In recent times, critical participatory action research has attempted to take account of disadvantage attributable to gender and ethnicity as well as to social class, its initial point of reference, and to issues of unsustainability in the contemporary world. So, critical participatory action research um, is a way of generating theory. It is also a way of taking some action. जो क्रिटिकल एक्शन रिसर्च के प्रोपोनेंट्स हैं वो ये कहते हैं कि mere generation of theory is not enough to address the problems of injustice in the society, to address the problems of unsustainability in the society, because researchers present their findings but action is not there. There is nobody to take action. There are very fewer chances when people take action or policymakers take action. So the proponents of critical action research, they say that only that research is meaningful, that brings some change, that empowers people, that brings change. So the scope of action research is there in is there when it comes to the issues of social class or gender or ethnicity. So critical action research falls under the paradigm of transformative or critical theory when we talk about research paradigms. So, in nutshell, I would say that action research is a tradition of research that aims at improving. Improvement can be in individuals' practice. Improvement can be in organizational practice. Improvement can be in the society. So critical action research is a tradition of action research that aims at bringing improvement in the society.